The phone buzzed against my desk, my mother's name flashing across the screen for the first time in 3 years. I let it ring, watching until the call ended, then waited for the inevitable voicemail notification. Her voice crackled through the speaker, strained and desperate in a way I'd never heard before. "Eleanor, we need to talk. It's about the family. Please call me back. I'm Eleanor, the daughter who was never good enough, the one who couldn't measure up to perfect Julian, my older brother who could do no wrong. At least, that's who I was until I walked away from it all 5 years ago. Everything okay?" Liam poked his head into my office, his usual confident smile fading as he noticed my expression. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I said, turning my phone screen toward him. "My mother called. First time since I left." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "What'd she want?" "Family emergency, apparently." I played the voicemail again, watching Liam's face as he listened. Funny how emergencies make people remember the children they wrote off. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from my father. Asterisk, "Please call your mother. It's important." Asterisk, "You going to call back?" Liam leaned against my desk, arms crossed. I stared at the message thread with my mother, years of unread holiday messages and guilt-laden texts filling the screen. I should probably find out if someone's dying, at least. With trembling fingers, I hit the call button. She answered on the first ring. "Eleanor, oh, thank goodness." Her voice wavered. "We've been trying to reach you." I noticed. "What's wrong?" "It's complicated. We're in trouble, sweetheart. The business, the house, everything. Julian, She choked back a sob. "We need help." Of course. My golden boy brother had finally screwed up badly enough that they needed the backup plan, me. What did he do? He made some investments. Bad ones. Used the business as collateral without telling your father. We're going to lose everything. I closed my eyes, remembering the day I'd tried to warn them about Julian's gambling. They dismissed me as jealous, bitter, trying to tarnish their perfect son's reputation. "How much?" "3 million. She paused. "We know you're doing well with your company. The news articles, the awards. We've followed everything. Now you have." The words came out sharper than I intended. "Funny, I don't remember you being interested in my success when I was starting out. Eleanor, please. We're your family." "Family?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Was I family when you told me I'd never amount to anything? When you called me the useless daughter at Aunt Beatrice's wedding? When you chose Julian over me every single time?" Silence stretched between us. Liam placed a supportive hand on my shoulder. "We were wrong," she whispered. "I know that now. But please, we need you." "No, Mother. You need my money. There's a difference." I took a deep breath. "I'll think about it. That's all I can offer right now." I hung up before she could respond, dropping my head into my hands. "You okay?" Liam asked quietly. "They're broke. Julian gambled away the family business." I looked up at him. $3 million worth of mistakes, and they want me to clean it up. Are you going to? I stood up, walking to the window overlooking the city skyline. 5 years ago, I'd arrived here with nothing but determination and spite. Now, I had everything they said I couldn't achieve. Success, respect, independence. You know what the worst part is? I turned back to Liam. Part of me wants to help, just to prove I'm better than they were. But another part wants to let them crash and burn. He finished for me? Is that terrible? After what they put me through? I'd say it's human. My phone buzzed again, Julian this time. I declined the call. "What are you going to do?" Liam asked. I thought about the scared little girl I used to be, always trying to prove herself worthy of love that should have been unconditional. About the woman I'd become, strong enough to build something from nothing. "I'm going to show them exactly who their useless daughter turned out to be," I said, smiling as an idea formed. "But not by writing a check. They need to see what real success looks like and what it costs." Liam grinned. Now that sounds like the Eleanor I know. I picked up my phone, typing a quick message to my mother. "I'll be home next week. We'll talk then." Asterisk, the response was immediate. Asterisk, "Thank you, sweetheart. We knew we could count on you." Asterisk, they had no idea what was coming. The memory hit me as I packed my suitcase. 16-year-old me, standing in our family kitchen, clutching my acceptance letter to business school, full scholarship. Julian had snatched the letter from my hands, scanning it with narrowed eyes. Must be some mistake, he said, smirking. Or they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel this year. Give it back. I'd reached for the letter, but he held it above his head, using his height advantage against me like always. Julian, stop teasing your sister, Mom had said, but she was smiling. She always smiled at his teasing. I'm not teasing. I'm being realistic. He dropped the letter onto the counter. Business school? Please, you can barely handle basic math. Remember when Dad tried to teach you about the family business? I did remember. I'd been 14, eager to learn, but every mistake was met with sighs and headshakes. Meanwhile, Julian got private lessons in the office, groomed to take over someday. My phone buzzed, jolting me back to the present. It was Sophia. Tell me you're not seriously going back there, she said when I answered. I have to, I said, zipping up my suitcase. You didn't hear my mother's voice, Sophia. They're desperate. Good. Let them be desperate. Remember your high school graduation? I winced. How could I forget? While Julian got a new car for his graduation, I got a lecture about being practical and considering community college instead of wasting time at business school. This isn't about revenge, I said, though part of me knew that was a lie. I was there, remember? I saw what they did to you. The memory shifted to another scene. My first business plan competition in college. I'd invited my family, reserved seats in the front row. They never showed up. Julian had a golf tournament that day. I found my old diary while packing, I told Sophia. Want to hear something funny? The day before I left for college, I overheard Mom and Dad talking about taking out a second mortgage to fund Julian's startup idea, the one that failed in 3 months. That's the one? $200,000 down the drain? Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs to buy my own textbooks, and now they want my money. Sophia's voice dripped with disdain. Please tell me you're not giving it to them. No, I said, standing up and walking to my home office. On the wall hung my first business license, framed next to the newspaper article about my company's first major success. I'm going to give them something better, the truth. What does that mean? It means I'm going to show them exactly what their useless daughter built while they were busy enabling their perfect son. A text from Julian lit up my phone. Hey sis, heard you're coming home. We should talk before you see Mom and Dad. Is that him? Sophia asked when I went quiet. Yeah, probably wants to convince me to bail them out before I find out exactly how bad things are. I typed back a quick we'll see. Remember when he told you your first business would fail within a month? Sophia said. I laughed. Right before he asked to borrow $5,000 for his foolproof investment scheme. Did he ever pay that back? What do you think? My doorbell rang. Liam, right on time for our pre-trip strategy session. Sophia, I have to go. Liam's here. Just be careful, okay? Don't let them pull you back into their games. I opened the door to find Liam holding 2 coffee cups and a folder. Found something interesting, he said, handing me one of the coffees. Did some digging into your family's business finances. How bad is it? He spread documents across my dining table. Worse than they're telling you. Julian didn't just make bad investments. He embezzled, used company funds for personal expenses, took out loans using business assets as collateral without board approval. Criminal charges? Not yet. But it's heading that way if someone doesn't intervene. I picked up one of the documents. A loan application with a forged signature. My father's signature. They really think I'm going to swoop in and fix this, don't they? Liam nodded. Question is, what are you actually going to do? I looked at my packed suitcase, then at the wall of achievements they'd never acknowledged. I'm going to make them face every mistake, every dismissal, every time they chose him over me. I squared my shoulders. And then I'm going to walk away and let them live with the consequences of their choices. That's my girl, Liam grinned. Need backup? Always. I picked up my suitcase. Time to show them who their useless daughter really is. The familiar streets of my hometown felt smaller now, each turn bringing back memories I'd tried to forget. I pulled into the coffee shop where I'd worked during high school, now transformed into a sleek cafe, a perfect place for my first meeting with Julian. He was already there, occupying the corner table like he owned it. Same confident posture, same expensive watch, but his eyes held a desperation I'd never seen before. Little sister, he stood to hug me. I stepped back. Let's skip the pretense, Julian. What do you want? His smile faltered as we sat down. Can't I just want to see my sister after 3 years of silence? Try again. A waitress approached. I ordered black coffee. Julian asked for some complicated specialty drink that wasn't even on the menu, then acted surprised when they couldn't make it. Things are complicated, he finally said, settling for regular coffee. Mom probably told you about the business. She told me you made some bad investments. Liam told me the truth. His face darkened at Liam's name. Your business partner should keep his nose out of family matters. Family matters? I laughed. Like when you forged Dad's signature on those loans? Coffee forgotten, Julian leaned forward. Listen, I can explain everything. I had a plan. The investments were solid, but the market, save it. I pulled out my phone, showing him the documentation Liam had gathered. Casino receipts, luxury car leases. That was your solid investment plan? I was networking, building relationships with clients. You wouldn't understand. You've always been so small-minded about these things. Small-minded? I felt my voice rising. I built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing while you were gambling away our parents' retirement. An elderly couple at the next table looked over. I lowered my voice. How much did you really lose, Julian? He wouldn't meet my eyes. 4.2 million. Jesus Christ. I sat back, stunned. Does Dad know? Not everything. Look, I can fix this. I just need some capital. To what? Double down? Hit the tables again? I have connections, he insisted. One good deal could turn everything around. But I need your help. Just a small loan, say $500,000. I'll pay you back double within 6 months. The same confident smile he'd always used to get his way. It probably still worked on our parents. No, his smile vanished. What? I said no. I'm not giving you money. Come on, Eleanor. We're family. You can't just... Family? I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Where was family when I needed help with college? When I was working 60-hour weeks to start my business? When I invited you all to my company's launch party, and you didn't show because you had a golf game? That's not fair. I was networking, building relationships. I grabbed my purse. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you're going to tell Mom and Dad everything. Every loan, every forged signature, every penny you stole. Or I will. He grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You wouldn't dare. I yanked free. Try me. I'm not that scared little girl anymore, Julian. You can't bully me into submission. You think you're so much better than me now. He stood, towering over me like he used to. With your fancy company and your business partner? I made one mistake, and you destroyed our family's legacy. The business Dad spent 30 years building, gone because you couldn't admit you had a problem. People were definitely staring now. Julian's face had turned red. You know what? His voice was low, dangerous. Maybe if Mom and Dad had given you the business instead of me, none of this would have happened. Is that what you want to hear? That you were right all along? What I want, I said quietly, is for you to face what you've done. No more manipulation. No more lies. My phone buzzed. A text from Liam. All set for tomorrow's meeting with your parents. Documents ready. Ties tomorrow at noon, I told Julian. Dad's office. Either you tell them or I will. He called after me as I walked away, but I didn't turn back. Outside, I leaned against my car, hands shaking as I dialed Liam's number. How'd it go? He asked. 4.2 million, Liam. He lost $4.2 million. Jesus, that's more than we thought. He wanted you to loan him $500,000 more? Said he could double it in 6 months? Liam was quiet for a moment. You okay? I watched through the window as Julian ordered another coffee, his hand shaking as he reached for his wallet. Yeah, I said. For the first time in my life, I think I am. Dad's office still smelled like leather and coffee, but the usual bustle of employees was gone. Empty desks stretched across the floor, personal items already cleared out. My heels clicked against the hardwood as I made my way to the conference room. Eleanor, Mom rushed to hug me. I kept my arms at my sides. Oh, sweetheart, thank you for coming. Dad stood by the window, looking older than I remembered. He turned, managing a weak smile. You look well. Success does that. I set my briefcase on the table. Where's Julian? Running late, Mom said quickly. Traffic, you know how it is. No, I checked my watch. He's not coming, is he? The silence answered my question. I pulled out my laptop and the documents Liam had prepared. Well then, I said. I guess I'll start. Start what? Dad asked, finally taking a seat. Eleanor, if this is about the loan. This isn't about a loan. I connected my laptop to the projector. This is about the truth. The first slide appeared, a breakdown of the company's finances over the past 3 years. Red numbers dominated the screen. What is this? Mom's voice trembled. This is what your perfect son did to the family business. I clicked through the slides. Unauthorized loans, forged signatures, casino debts paid with company funds. Dad's face went pale. That's not possible. Julian wouldn't. Here's his signature on a loan for $800,000. Click. Here's your forged signature on another for $1.2 million. Click. And here's the casino's record of his losses over the past 18 months. Mom started crying. Dad just stared at the screen. The total damage, I continued, is $4.2 million. Not the $3 million he told you about. And that's not counting the legal implications of the fraud. Why are you doing this? Mom whispered. We asked for help, not this. Because you need to see what your favoritism created. I turned off the projector. You gave him everything. The business, the trust fund, your unconditional support. And he repaid you by destroying it all. We made mistakes, Dad admitted quietly. With both of you. No, I shook my head. You made choices. Every time you praised his mediocrity while ignoring my achievements. Every time you funded his failures while I worked my way through college. Those weren't mistakes. They were choices. The door opened. Julian stood there, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. Sorry I'm late, he mumbled. Just in time, I said. I was just showing Mom and Dad your creative accounting. He slumped into a chair. I was going to tell them. When? After you got another loan to gamble away? Julian, Dad's voice was barely audible. Is this true? All of it? Julian nodded, staring at the table. The investors are pulling out, I continued. The bank is calling in the loans. You have maybe 2 weeks before they force a liquidation. There must be something we can do, Mom pleaded. Eleanor, your company is not your safety net. I closed my laptop. I'm not here to save the business. Then why are you here? Julian demanded. To gloat? I'm here because you need to understand something. I stood up, looking at each of them. Success isn't about who has the most natural talent, or who gets the most support, or who your parents believe in more. It's about what you do with what you have. I pulled out one final document, my company's latest valuation report. My company is worth $30 million. I built it while you were all telling me I'd never amount to anything. And I did it without stealing, lying, or gambling away other people's futures. So you're just going to let us lose everything? Julian asked. Your own family? No, I gathered my things. I'm going to let you face the consequences of your actions, all of you, but I will make you an offer. They leaned forward eagerly. I'll help you negotiate with the bank, help you salvage what's left of your reputation, but only if you agree to my terms. Anything, Mom said quickly. Julian goes to addiction counseling. Dad, you step down and let a professional management team handle the restructuring. And Mom, I met her eyes. You acknowledge publicly, at the next family gathering, exactly how you treated me all these years. The room was silent except for Mom's quiet sobs. Those are my terms, I said. Take them or leave them. And if we don't? Julian asked. Then you can explain to the board and the police where all that money went. I walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. You have until tomorrow to decide. Call me when you're ready to face reality. The sound of my heels echoed through the empty office as I walked away, leaving them to sit with their choices. I was having coffee at my old high school hangout when Clara walked in. 5 years hadn't changed her much. Same perfectly styled hair, same designer handbag. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Eleanor, oh my God, she rushed over, arms outstretched. I heard you were back in town. Clara, I didn't stand for the hug. Let me guess, Julian told you. Her smile faltered slightly. Actually, yes, we've been seeing each other. Of course they had. My brother's ex-best friend's girlfriend, now his current flame. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sit, I gestured to the empty chair. I'm sure you have plenty to tell me. She settled in, fidgeting with her coffee cup. Look, about Julian. Save it. I already know everything. No, you don't. She glanced around before leaning closer. I'm the one who sent the anonymous tip to the board about the missing money. That got my attention. What? I saw the receipts, Eleanor. The casino visits, the wire transfers. He was spiraling, and nobody would listen to me. She pulled out her phone, showing me texts from Julian. He promised he'd stop, but he didn't. He said he had a system, that he just needed one big win to fix everything. She wiped away a tear. I tried to help him, but he just kept taking more and more. The waitress brought more coffee. I studied Clara's face, looking for any sign of deception. Why are you telling me this? Because I remember how they treated you, how we all treated you. She reached for my hand. I pulled back. I was there when your mom told everyone not to attend your business launch. Said it would only encourage your delusions of grandeur. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Asterisk. We've discussed your terms. Please come to the house tonight. Asterisk. They're meeting tonight, aren't they? Clara asked. To discuss your offer? I looked up sharply. How do you know about that? Julian called me after your meeting. He was upset. She hesitated. He's not planning to accept your terms, Eleanor. He thinks he can find another way. Another way to what? Steal more money? He mentioned something about offshore accounts, private investors. She pulled out a USB drive. That's why I brought you these. Bank statements, emails, everything I could find. I stared at the drive. Why now, Clara? Why help me after all these years? Because I was wrong. We all were. She stood up, gathering her things. And because someone needs to stop him before he hurts more people. As she turned to leave, I called after her. Does he know you're here? No, and he can't know. Please. Her eyes were pleading. Just be careful tonight. He's not the same person we grew up with. After she left, I plugged the drive into my laptop. Dozens of files appeared, correspondence with shady investment firms, screenshots of gambling debts, and something that made my blood run cold. A draft email to my company's board of directors, full of fabricated allegations about my business practices. I called Liam immediately. He's planning to sabotage my company, I said when he answered. Trying to destroy my reputation before I can expose him. Jesus, Liam paused. Want me to come over there? No, but have our lawyers ready and call security. Make sure Julian can't access our building. Already done? What about tonight? I looked at the time. 2 hours until the family meeting. I'm going, but first I need to make a stop. The bank manager was expecting me. I'd called ahead. Miss Walker, he smiled, shaking my hand. I understand you want to discuss your brother's accounts. Actually, I placed Clara's USB drive on his desk. I want to discuss fraud prevention. An hour later, I pulled up to my parents' house. Julian's car was already there, along with Dad's. Through the window, I could see them in the living room, heads bent together in discussion. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Clara. Whatever happens tonight, remember, you're not the one who needs to be ashamed. I grabbed my briefcase and walked to the door. Before I could knock, it swung open. Eleanor, she said softly, please come in. We need to talk. Behind her, Julian sat in Dad's armchair, a familiar smirk playing on his lips. He thought he had a plan. He thought he could outmaneuver me one last time. He had no idea what was coming. I stepped inside, ready for the final confrontation. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought in the places we once called home. Before we start, I said, setting my briefcase on the coffee table, I had an interesting conversation with the bank today. Julian's smirk faltered slightly. We've discussed your terms, Mom interrupted, perched nervously on the edge of the sofa. And we think, no, I cut her off. Let's hear what the bank had to say. Julian leaned forward, trying to maintain his composure. I'm sure it was fascinating. Oh, it was. I pulled out several documents. Especially the part about the second set of books you've been keeping. The offshore accounts. The shell companies. Dad's head snapped up. What? Did you really think I wouldn't find out? I spread the papers across the table. Or did you think you could blackmail me into silence with those fake allegations you were planning to send to my board? Mom gasped. Julian's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. Really? Should we call Clara? I'm sure she'd be happy to explain. He stood up so quickly his chair tipped over. You talked to Clara? She showed me everything, Julian. The gambling debts, the fraudulent accounts, The plans to frame me for embezzlement if I didn't help you cover it up. You're lying, am I? I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. Julian's voice discussing offshore transfers with someone named Marcus. Dad put his head in his hands. Mom started crying again. It's not what it sounds like, Julian insisted. I was trying to save the company. By stealing from it? By planning to destroy my reputation. I turned to our parents. Still think he deserves another chance? We could. Mom looked desperately between us. We could find a way to fix this. As a family. There's nothing to fix, I stood up. The bank has frozen all accounts pending investigation. The board has been notified. And the police, I checked my watch, should be here any minute. You called the police? Mom shrieked. On your own brother? No, Mom. The bank called the police on a criminal who happens to be my brother. Julian lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You can't do this to me. Let go of me, my voice was steel. Or what? You'll call your precious Liam to save you again? Dad finally stood up. Julian, let her go. Don't you see what she's doing? Julian's grip tightened. She's destroying this family. No, I yanked free. You did that all by yourself. Blue lights flashed outside. Mom ran to the window. Please, she begged. Eleanor, stop this. We can work something out. Like you worked it out when I needed you? When I begged for support, for acknowledgement, for just one moment of the attention you showered on him? We made mistakes. No, I cut her off. You made choices. And now you're all going to live with them. The doorbell rang. 2 police officers stood outside. Mr. Julian Walker, one called through the door. Julian looked wildly around the room, like a trapped animal. Dad, Robert just shook his head, tears in his eyes. I'll destroy you, Julian hissed at me. Everything you've built will still be standing long after you're gone. I opened the door. Officers, he's in here. Everything happened quickly after that. The handcuffs, the rights being read, Mom's hysterical crying, Dad's silent tears as they led Julian out. He turned back one last time. You think this makes you better than me? No, I met his eyes. I always was better than you. They just couldn't see it. After the police car pulled away, I gathered my things. What happens now? Dad asked quietly. Now, the company goes into receivership. You'll probably lose the house. Your reputation, I shrugged. Well, that's already gone. And you? Mom's voice was small. Will you help us? I paused at the door. My offer stands. Professional management team. Public acknowledgement of how you treated me. And Julian gets help. Real help. In prison or out. That's it. After everything we've done for you? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Everything you've done for me? You mean like telling me I was worthless? Like choosing him over me at every turn? Like making me feel like I didn't deserve to exist in this family? They stood there, finally seeing me, really seeing me, for the first time. I'll have my lawyers contact you tomorrow about the restructuring. I opened the door. Goodbye, Mom. Dad, Eleanor, Dad called after me. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't turn around. I know, but sorry isn't enough anymore. The door closed behind me with a final click, leaving them alone with the wreckage of their choices. 3 days after Julian's arrest, Mom called a family meeting at Aunt Beatrice's house, the same house where, years ago, she'd first called me the useless daughter. Fitting, really. Liam pulled up to the curb. You sure you want to do this? No, I smoothed my dress. But it's time. The living room was packed with relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, all the people who'd witnessed my humiliation over the years. They fell silent as I walked in. Eleanor, Aunt Beatrice hugged me awkwardly. We've all heard, the news about how your brother committed fraud, or about how I turned him in. More uncomfortable silence. Mom stood up from her spot on the couch. I called everyone here because, her voice cracked, because we owe you an apology, Eleanor, all of us. Mom, no, let me finish. She squared her shoulders. For years, we treated you like you were less than Julian. We dismissed your dreams, belittled your achievements, made you feel unwelcome in your own family. Uncle Robert shifted in his chair. Maybe this isn't the place. This is exactly the place, Dad cut in. This is where it started, isn't it? At that dinner when we all laughed at Eleanor's business plans. I remembered that night. I'd presented my first business concept to the family, hoping for support. Instead, they'd turned it into a joke. passing around my carefully prepared proposal like it was a comedy script. We were wrong, Mom continued. So terribly wrong. While we were praising Julian's failures, you were building something extraordinary, and we were too blind to see it. Too proud, Aunt Beatrice corrected. We were too proud to admit we'd backed the wrong horse. I'm not here for apologies, I said, my voice steady. I'm here to set things straight. I pulled out my phone, pulling up the family group chat. Remember this thread from 3 years ago? When I invited everyone to my company's launch party. I started scrolling. 14 people said they were too busy. 8 didn't bother responding. Only Sophia showed up. We didn't think, Uncle Robert started, that it would succeed, I finished, or that it mattered. Well, let me show you what you missed. I connected my phone to the TV, starting a slideshow. Pictures of my company's growth, news articles about our success, awards ceremonies they'd never attended. While you were all celebrating Julian's latest venture, I was building this. While you were covering up his mistakes, I was creating jobs, real jobs for real people. The photos continued, my first office, the team growing, the new headquarters. Last week, before all this happened, we closed a deal worth $15 million. I let that sink in. That's 5 times what Julian lost, what your perfect son gambled away. Mom was crying openly now. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. But this isn't about money, I continued. It's about respect, about family, about choosing to see only what you wanted to see, instead of what was really there. What do you want from us? Aunt Beatrice asked quietly. Nothing, not anymore. I turned off the TV. I'm not here for revenge or redemption. I'm here to show you exactly what you missed out on, what you threw away because you couldn't see past your own prejudices. Please, Mom stepped forward. Give us a chance to make it right. Make it right? I laughed. You can't make this right. You can't undo years of damage with one public apology. Then why are you here? Uncle Charles demanded. Because someone needs to say it. I looked around the room. Your golden boy is a fraud. Your perfect son is a criminal. And your useless daughter? She's the only one who can help you pick up the pieces. The silence was deafening. My lawyers will handle the restructuring of the company. Dad, you'll step down next week. A professional team will take over. I gathered my things. And Julian will get the help he needs, in prison or out. And us? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. What about us? I paused at the door, looking back at my family. Really looking at them. The proud aunts and uncles who dismissed me. The cousins who'd followed Julian's lead in mocking my dreams. The parents who'd failed to see what was right in front of them. That's up to you, I opened the door. But know this, I'm done trying to prove myself to people who never wanted to see me succeed in the first place. Liam was waiting outside. How'd it go? Exactly as expected. I got into the car. Take me home. As we drove away, I watched my family through the rearview mirror, still gathered in Aunt Beatrice's living room, finally facing the truth about who they'd chosen to believe in and who they'd chosen to ignore. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about walking away and letting people live with the consequences of their choices. The knock on my office door came just as I was finishing a conference call. Sophia poked her head in. Someone here to see you, she said, her expression unreadable. It's Julian. I looked up sharply. Here? How? Released this morning. She stepped aside, revealing my brother in the doorway. He looked different, thinner, the designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a button-down shirt. The arrogance was gone from his stance. Hey, sis. His voice was quiet. Got a minute? I nodded to Sophia. She left, closing the door behind her. Nice office, Julian said, looking around. Better than Dad's old one. What do you want? He sat down, hands clasped in his lap. I've been in therapy, real therapy, not just the court-mandated stuff. Good for you. I learned something interesting, he met my eyes. About why I did what I did, why I couldn't stand to see you succeed. Julian, please, he held up a hand. Let me finish. He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. I wrote this in therapy. Must have rewritten it 50 times. I took the letter but didn't open it. I was jealous, he continued. Not of your success, of your strength. You built something real, something lasting. All I did was pretend to be what everyone wanted me to be. You had every advantage, I said. Every opportunity. I know, he nodded. And I wasted them all trying to live up to an image I couldn't maintain. He gestured to the letter. Read it, please. I unfolded the paper. His handwriting was different, less flashy, more honest somehow. Dear Eleanor, I read aloud. I'm sorry, not just for the money or the lies or the attempted blackmail. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel small to make myself feel big. For every dream I mocked because I was afraid you'd achieve it. For every moment I stole from you because I couldn't stand in my own spotlight. I stopped reading. Keep going, he said softly. You were always the strong one. I continued reading. Asterisk the brave one. While I was taking shortcuts and looking for easy wins, I watched through the window as Julian walked away, his figure growing smaller against the bustling city backdrop. The weight of his words lingered in the air, heavy with regret and newfound clarity. Liam leaned against my desk, flipping through Julian's resignation letter. Think he's serious this time? Liam asked, his tone cautious but hopeful. I nodded, folding the letter carefully. He's finally facing the truth. That's a start. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Clara. Asterisk heard Julian stopped by. Hope he didn't cause trouble. Asterisk I typed back quickly. Asterisk no trouble. Just some long overdue honesty. Asterisk Liam raised an eyebrow. Clara? Yeah, she's been keeping tabs on him. Says he's been trying to turn things around. Good for him, Liam said, though his skepticism was evident. But what about you? You've been carrying this family's weight for years. When do you get to move on? I sighed, leaning back in my chair. I think I already have. This isn't about them anymore. It's about me, about proving to myself that I'm enough, regardless of what they think. Liam smiled, the kind of smile that told me he understood. You always were, you know. Enough, I mean. The office felt lighter somehow, as if the weight of years of resentment and bitterness had finally begun to lift. Julian's visit, his apology, his resignation, they were steps toward closure, not just for him, but for me too. Later that evening, I found myself at the coffee shop where I'd first met Julian after returning home. The place was quieter now, the hum of conversation a soothing backdrop to my thoughts. Sophia slid into the seat across from me, setting down 2 cups of coffee. So, she said, her tone casual but her eyes sharp. How are you really doing? I stirred my coffee, watching the steam rise. Better, I think. It's strange. I spent so long wanting them to see me, to acknowledge me. And now that they have, it doesn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. Sophia nodded. Because it was never really about them, was it? It was about you proving something to yourself. Exactly, I said, sipping my coffee. And now that I have, I don't need their approval anymore. I don't need to be the useless daughter or the successful entrepreneur. I just need to be me. Sophia reached across the table, squeezing my hand. You've always been enough, Eleanor. You just needed to believe it. The days that followed were quieter, more reflective. The family business was in the hands of the restructuring team, and Julian was starting over, one small step at a time. My parents had retreated into their own world, grappling with the consequences of their choices. And me? I was finally free. Free from the weight of their expectations, free from the need to prove myself, free to just be. One afternoon, as I walked through the park near my office, I spotted Julian sitting on a bench, a book in his hands. He looked up as I approached, his expression wary but not defensive. Hey, I said, sitting down beside him. How's the mailroom treating you? He chuckled, a sound that was more genuine than anything I'd heard from him in years. It's humbling, but good. I'm learning. Good, I said, leaning back. That's all any of us can do, really. Learn, grow, and try to be better. He nodded, his gaze distant. I never thought I'd say this, but thank you for not giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve it. I smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. I didn't do it for you, Julian. I did it for me. But I'm glad it helped you, too. We sat in silence for a while, the autumn leaves swirling around us. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start, a quiet, tentative step towards something better. As I walked away, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The battles were over, the wounds were healing, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the fight, It's the letting go. And sometimes, just sometimes, letting go is the bravest thing you can do.